Good day, everyone. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Display Solutions, welcoming you back to another in our series of Tech Tuesday webinars. For those of you who have been joining us all along, welcome back. And for those of you who are just joining us today, welcome. As you know, we've established these webinars so that our customers, end users, integrators, channel partners, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products and solutions. And today we're going to be presenting you our newest projector, the VPL-PHZ61 and 51. These are our ultra bright, compact, and very installation friendly and flexible laser projectors. As in past, we will be posting any references and links in the chat. We encourage you to post your questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll be also posting links to all of our previous Tech Tuesday webinars as well in the chat panel. So joining me today will be Drew Buttress, our Senior Product Manager for Projection Systems, and Terrence Boyd, Senior Commercialization Manager for our projection systems as well. Today, we're going to open up with a short video that's going to give you a great overview of these projectors. And then Drew will take it from there, and I'll meet you back here for Q&A.
And good afternoon and good morning to those out on the West Coast. Drew Buttress here. Today, as John mentioned, we're going to be talking about the VPL PHZ 61 and 51, our new ultra compact, um, the latest in our ultra compact series. The one too many, sorry. Some of the key features we're gonna hit on here today are the improved brightness over the former PHZ 60 and 50. Um, Now we're at 5,300 lumens on the 51 and 6,400 lumens on the 61. The key takeaway here is that the PHZ 61 can actually put out 7,000 lumen center brightness, which is pretty amazing. It's probably best in class for this size projector. Another step up from the previous series is the capability to take in a 4K 60p input signal. Um, We've added the feature called reality text that we'll be getting into a little bit. We've also improved this series with a feature called Bright View that we will discuss, and then we've bumped up the intelligence in our intelligence settings. We're now using version 3. We'll discuss that. Also, we've added in our ambient light sensor for a feature that we call ambiance. We still have the 55-degree vertical shift. And then, as you saw in that video, we've improved our filter design, not only in the material that's used in that filter, but we've now made it much more convenient if you need to service that filter and get it cleaned. It's a slide out mechanism, so you don't have to drop the projector from a ceiling mount. And then also, in addition, to go along with that, we have a basically an airflow sensor, so it detects that the filter is becoming clogged, and we'll talk about that. So, in our series of pro projection solutions, we've still got the GTZ 380 at the top, our 4K 10,000 lumen projector. Our installation series that have the interchangeable lenses, and then now where we fit with the new PHZ 51 and 61, and we still have the ultra compact WXGA VPL-CW Z10. Give you an idea of where we're targeting these projectors. The PHZ 5161 really kind of going after corporate and education, meeting rooms, um, classrooms, as well as going after entertainment venues, particularly maybe like a sports bar or, um, an indoor amusement area. So this is a 3 LCD system. We use the Z phosphor laser light engine. The big benefit over a one chip DLP system is the 3 LCD will give you equal color, excuse me, color and white output. Whereas on the one chip DLP, your white color output tends to be a uh, a high, tends to be a brighter output than what your color output will be. So in the evolution, as you know, Sony's always innovating. We're always improving. And back in 2019, we introduced this concept of intelligent settings. And in 2020, we brought out version 2, where we added improvements, particularly um, um, to be able to control the output to add longevity. And then with intelligent settings 3.0, we've also incorporated that ambiance feature, so that we can adjust the light output based on the ambient light in the room or environment that this has been installed in. So we originally brought that out on the VPL FHZ 85 and 80, and we've now incorporated the intelligent settings version 3 into the new series. So the ambiance ambient light sensor. This is mounted on the projector and it's sensing what the ambient light level is in the room. And then we are adjusting the laser output. So if this is in a brighter setting, we will increase that output. If this is in a less light environment where you've controlled the lighting or you've dropped the room lights because you're showing something on the projector. Uh, Ambiance will then automatically adjust the laser light output, so you still get bright, vivid images, but we're not having to drive the laser uh, or the light engine that hard. So it adds longevity. It gives you better ROI, or cost of ownership goes down because you're not having to replace the projector as often. So reality creation came out some time ago, and this is where we are doing a frame by frame uh, repixel mapping using a Sony specific pattern database. So if you're looking at images or video with reality creation turned on, the images look much clearer. I like to say to people, hey, it almost adds texture to a photo. Um, Reality text is really putting the emphasis on characters and lines, like drawings or spreadsheets. And so reality text would be best suited for those environments where it's going to be a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of drawings, um, etc. So I opened with that this is a 4K input capable projector. It is not a 4K output. We're still doing WUXGA, but with our reality creation engine, you get 4K like output. It's much cleaner looking than some of the competitors. The big thing here with a 4K 60 input is in a room that's going to have multiple devices, particularly like flat panel displays. You don't need to scale down to 4K 30p like you had to on the previous PHZ 50 and 60. So now your signal routing is consistent throughout the space. Another feature that came over, another big improvement is a feature we call Bright View. If you're in a brighter environment and you typically crank up the light output, what ends up happening is you lose contrast. So the image will become very washed out looking, even though you're driving it in that brighter environment. With Bright View on, we don't just increase the output, but we also increase the contrast. So you don't get that washed out look. As you can see in the lower left corner, we could turn it off and then you see the effect of bright environment. But when you have three settings, low, medium, and high. And on the right, you can see what happens when we put it on high, meaning this is in a very bright room. So other improvements, this is now using a sealed light source to prevent dust from getting in. Also, we've improved the filter material. On the previous model, you would get about 1,500 hours out of that filter before needing to really clean it. And then with the new one, we can get up to 10,000 hours. We also added in that we call it a filter clogging sensor. It's really detecting the airflow, and as that becomes as the filter becomes clogged, the airflow is reduced, and then you will get alerts that the clogging is started to happen, and that would let you know it's now time to pull that out, clean it, or replace it. And as you saw in the video, we redesigned the filter access, and this is really one of the biggest improvements in my mind because previously you would have to either use 1.5 to 2 inch standoffs between your ceiling mount and the projector so that you could pop out the filter. With a new design, you don't have to do that. You don't have to use standoffs. You don't have to take it down off the ceiling. You just slide that filter out, and you're all set. The other thing Japan likes to pride itself on all of our projector designs is to really use what they call a blend-in design, and the intent is that you can mount this on the ceiling, and it blends in with that ceiling material, and hence it's really an out of sight, out of mind. Other than the fact there's got to be a projector to shoot on that screen, but it's again the PHZ51 and 61 are following suit. Again, very, very low profile. The chassis is not very thick at all, and so when mounted on that flat surface, it sort of disappears. Protocol emulation. This is a feature we've had in the last few series. What happens with protocol emulation is we have, I think it's three um, competitive protocols pre-stored so that your installer doesn't have to go and reprogram the room control system. They basically come into a menu, they select, it could be Panasonic, it could be Epson, it could be NEC. We also have the ability, if it's a brand that we can get the protocol manual for, we can create what we call a custom file or a CSV file, and then by installing that, again, we will emulate that other brand's protocols. So in some cases, you get on off, volume up, volume down, brightness up, brightness down. You get some of those commands. Again, being very basic, but yet very helpful um, when it's a large install. There could be multiple rooms, and they don't want to have to go and pay a lot of money to reprogram that room control system. Now, this projector does not have a built-in wireless feature, but what we do have is a powered USB port. So if the device is going to be able to take that 5-volt, 2-amp uh, power from the USB port, then that device, the mirroring device, could be plugged into an HDMI input and then the USB plugged in. We've actually labeled it specifically for power, so you know which one to plug it into, and that will power that device. And now you've got that content sharing or mirroring capability. Some additional features. We've added what we call auto power on. So once you connect an input source to the projector, and if it's asleep, it will automatically turn on. It has to be in standby mode. It's not a hard, if you've done a hard power off, then it's not going to know. But it's available on the HDMI, DVI, and HD15 terminal inputs. We don't support it on HD base T, so just be aware. Another really cool feature is auto input select. And this is where if I have two different video sources, when I go to the input screen to change which source I want to show, I don't have to cycle through all 4 or 5, however many are on it. I only see the two that are actually connected and that we've detected. So a nice convenience factor that eliminates a lot of extra, button pushes on the remote. And then finally, data cloning. This is really a convenience feature where if you're doing a multiple install, you've set up the first projector, you want these settings, etc. Those can be exported to a USB drive, moved over to another, and then basically imported. And now that second projector, third projector, however many you're doing, that's all. They're all going to be set to that initial, to the same settings as that initial projector. So very convenient for integrators and installers, AV/IT departments that do it in house, etc. So what are our target applications and target markets? Obviously, meeting rooms, classrooms, conference rooms, or just general meeting spaces. And then we're also seeing a lot of attraction into our esports simulator market. So in this picture, we're showing a golf simulator, but it could be used with other sports simulators as well. So as you can see, we've put a lot of great new features, improved some existing features. Um, this is really targeting everybody who has to touch your AV ecosystem. Integrators are going to like the flexibility with the 55 percent vertical shift, the data cloning for multiple projection installs, and then the fact that they don't have to step down 4K 60p to 4K 30p. Um, Intelligent settings, definitely sets you up so that you've already got a great looking image based on the install space. There's the sealed light source and the dust system, the new filter with slide out access. That adds value for your AV teams because it reduces the maintenance and the need to have people constantly touching the projector. And then obviously all those who are actually seeing the projected images. Reality creation, as I said, is just an amazing feature when you're looking at images and video. And then reality text when you're really, if the install is really primarily going to be where you're showing a lot of PowerPoints or CAD drawings, that sort of thing. Bright view, along with our new ambiance light sensor, makes that picture look better based on the install environment. So, we like to say, finally a projector that makes everybody happy. And then, looking at what Sony can provide, you look at a space that has multiple spaces. So here's a building with multiple different spaces, meeting rooms. We've got cameras, PTZ cameras, box cameras. We've got the Pro Bravia displays. We've got our IP beamforming microphone. In the larger spaces like a corporate lobby or a showroom, not only do we have our 4K projection, but we have our just amazing direct view LED walls. Getting into auditoriums, we have longer throw or you know um, higher brightness projection. We've also got the cameras. That little black box in the upper left, that is our Edge Analytics appliance. One of the licenses on there is for PTZ auto tracking, so we can pan track a presenter moving back and forth along the front of the room. And then, of course, with our Pro Bravias, we've also got the ability to add in digital signage, create a video wall, things like wayfinding, so people new to the building can have an understanding of where they are. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John Garmendi. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Drew. Exciting, exciting. We've got quite a few questions actually here in the Q&A. People are definitely interested, and as you might imagine, Terrence, the thing that's on everybody's mind is when and how much.
Yes. So the PHZ61 is scheduled to start shipping to our customers here about mid to end of our November timeframe here. And then the PHZ51, we're looking at about the middle of December. As far as price, list price for the PHZ61 is 5,500, and the list price, and that's in U.S. dollars. The list price for the PHZ51 is 4,500. MSRP again in U.S. dollars for both. It'll be about 34,3750 for the PHZ61 and 28,1250 for the PHZ51. Those are in U.S. dollars. I'd encourage you to reach out. I know there's some Canadian folks on the call as well. If you could reach out to your Sony representatives, and they can get you the right pricing there for those as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Terrence.
Mhm.
We've got a question here in the chat from YL. They ask, does the bright view mode work automatically with the ambient light sensor, or do you need to manually set it up?
Great question. That is actually a menu item. You would need to go in. You can either, like I said, there's four selections. You can either turn it off completely, or we have low, medium, and high settings. Um, Ambiance would be working in conjunction with that. So if you've turned on bright view because it's a high light environment, a lot of windows, or it's a space where you're not turning down the lights, you could certainly turn on bright view, and it'll work in conjunction with the uh, ambiance light sensor.
Okay. Um, Terrence, another question for you from Kevin. He asks, what is the end of life, the EOL, for the 60, and will there be an overlap?
Well, obviously, we're hoping that there's not too much of an overlap, but I think the PHC60 and the PHC50, we sent the end of life notification out. I think it was towards the right around the time when we announced this new product in New York, around October 11th. So We've already announced that, and the PHC 60s, we do still have some in stock. So, if you'd like to work with your Sony representative to purchase some of those, again, we do have some of those in stock, and we can work to move those out.
Great. Thank you. Drew, here's a question for you. It's from Susan. She asks, can you explain the difference again between reality creation versus reality text?
Okay, yeah, pretty good. So reality creation is a technology where we're repixel mapping. We do it on a frame by frame basis, and I have a PowerPoint that's full of photos. It's some of the most phenomenal imagery. I mean, I wish I could shoot photos that good, but one of them is a bison, and if I turn reality creation off, it looks like a photo of the bison. If I turn reality creation on, I feel like I could sit there and actually feel the fur. You can almost see the individual fibers in its hair. Um, and so it's emphasizing, certain things in there, and it'll de-emphasize like things in the background. So it's really ideally suited for imagery, video, etc. The reality text is where, I'm not going to get too scientific, but we're basically sharpening lines and characters. So it enhances the viewing experience when you're doing maybe a PowerPoint, or you've put up an Excel spreadsheet or put up bar graphs. The edges look much cleaner. If this was going into, say, a school of architecture where they're going to be showing a lot of line drawings, or an engineering design firm where, again, you could be showing a lot of line drawings, reality text is really what I would emphasize, because it's going to sharpen those images of that text and lines and make it much clearer to, for viewing.
Perfect. Thank you, Drew. Question from Kurt, also for you, Drew, asking about the protocol emulation, and does that work via the HD base T port?
Um, I I I can't answer that off the top of my head. I know it works with RS-232. So if you're doing RS-232 over HD base T, then I would think so. However, we do handle a number of the control protocols over HD base T. So you may not, if you're sending a certain command um, that's not through the RS-232, but it's over HD base T, we may respond to that. Um, Off the top of my head, I'm thinking. I'm sorry, I was wrong. There is no protocol emulation for HD base T, so it's strictly the RS-232.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Question here from Christopher. Says he may have missed it, and I think he did, but wants to hear about our Crestron support again, support of Crestron control.
Um, so we do support Crestron. I want to say connected 1.0. There may be a module for our projectors already um, in that Crestron store. Um, so we do have Crestron support. I'm not sure specifically what you might be asking, but yes, we do have Crestron support. We don't have XIO support, so that's Crestron Connected 2.0, or but but we are working on that for the PHZ 51 and 61.
Okay. Question from Mark, wants to know a little bit more about the intelligent settings, um, specifically the presets. Can you talk about what are those presets, and can they be overridden?
So that answer is yes. You can if you go into one of the menus and you turn intelligent settings off, you'll then be prompted to select one of three presets. One of them is classroom, and when we're doing classroom, um, what we're doing is we're really prioritizing, each preset, there's a different prioritization as to how the projector is going to perform. So in the case of a classroom, the priority is really on brightness, so we're increasing the light output for that environment. One of them might be museum, or one of them is museum, and there the priority is really on noise. So we reduce the light output, which then can reduce the fan and hence make it much quieter. And then there's one that's for amusement or entertainment, and there the priority is really for outputting very vivid colors. So if you turn intelligence settings off, you can the override is turn them off, and now you can manually set your brightness, contrast, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Question from Justin. Justin is with a signage software company and asks about if there's any platform, Android platform SoC built into our projectors like we have in the Pro Bravias.
That's a great question, and I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I don't believe we have something like Bravia. I think if you were going to play, if you wanted to feed signage, you would be going to an external player and running
Mhm.
HDMI directly into the projector that way as your video source.
Okay. Terrence, question for you from Samantha. Asks about the application for this projector and the targeted market segment. She wants to know is are we going after the installation market, installation applications with this projector?
You know, I'd like to. I can think of a few accounts we could go after with this, but no, really, it's still two separate segments. I mean, we still have our ever popular FHC 85 and 80 line for our mid range, and that's an installation, true installation class where. From a lens capability, we're able to offer a full suite of lenses anywhere from 0.33 on the ultra short end, or ultra short throw end, all the way up to 4.84 on the long throw side. So by offering that suite of lenses on the FHC8 series, that's something that this particular model can't do because it is a fixed lens. But what we are hoping to do is to introduce a lot of the creature comfort conveniences of the mid range installation class projector and bringing that down into the ultra compact. So I think that there are a lot of different applications that. May not need the full breadth and scope of an installation class that might now start to look at these new models, the PHC 61 and 51, maybe because it's just the sheer brightness, and we're starting to reach new brightness levels with these from a performance capability that we're able to now start to qualify at 7,000 center lumens for the PHC 61. I think we'll be able to start looking at some new applications there.
Yeah, true. It really, I think it finds that sweet spot, and it's a nice balance. You know. Thanks, Terrence. Question from Peter asks about is Drew, is there a way for the projector to connect wirelessly to a network?
No,
Okay.
um, not unless you connected it to some external wireless access point right there at the projector. We don't have any sort of wireless connectivity in the projector.
Okay, gotcha. And I know, Drew, we had a question earlier about ambiance,
Mhm.
and Bob just wrote and asked, can you please explain again actually how it works?
Okay, so ambiance is really combining that ambient light sensor with a bunch of processing behind it, and as the ambient light changes, whether it's getting brighter or it's getting dimmer, then the sensor detects that, and through the processing, we can then either raise the light engine output or lower it. And in the case of lowering it, you're certainly going to be able to extend the life because you're not maxing out that laser light output. So it's the combination of a light sensor along with the processing behind it to then control what the laser light output is really doing, and it's all based on the environment that you've installed in.
Okay, Drew. And a question from Mike. He asks, how would this projector look on camera? So I guess he's asking if you were to shoot a camera at the projected image. He says that with some projectors, you can see color separation when viewing on camera, and he wants to know: are the colors separated, or is there one light with a color wheel?
Well, no, we take a single laser output, we split it through a couple of different prisms, and that is what's those prisms are what are then outputting your red, your green, your blue. And so our projectors are well known for um, a lack of color gradation. Um, some other projectors you'll see color banding. I mean, with your eyes, you don't need a camera to see it. I've never shot one of our PTZ cameras at a projected screen, which was you know which is the output of one of our projectors. Um, I would be very surprised if we would see any sort of color separation. I've heard of this on the single DLP with the wheel, where you can almost pick up flicker, because as that wheel spins, you're creating your red, green, blue, and white space.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm just checking here. We have one final question. It's from Jason. And Terrence asking, will there be an ultra short throw version?
Of course, our range of products are always looking at new ways that we can add value for our customers and their needs. At this time, I don't think that there is an ultra short throw version of this model that we're seeing. But that's not to say that we won't come out with something in the future months or years or whatever. But at this time, I don't see anything like that over the horizon for this class.
And Terrence, the kind of follow up question or related question from Terry asks about: have you thought of a cover for the buttons to prevent tampering?
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. You know, I, I I don't think I've heard that one. But that's a valid point. That's a valid point. That's something we're always working with our product designers and engineers in Japan, and that's great feedback to be able to take back and share with them. For future iterations of products, and as we improve our products and strengthen them in the future. But for this particular model that we're just launched, no, I don't think there's not a cover or anything like that over the manual knobs that adjust the settings on the top. So unfortunately, not.
Okay, okay, thank you. And just one last quick check, but I think that's it for all of our questions in the chat. So, with that, we'll begin our wrap up and say thank you to everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your not only you attending, but your active participation in these webinars. That's what really makes it. And we're also always actively seeking your feedback on topics and products that you'd like us to cover in future Tech Tuesday webinars. So please send us your feedback. It's something that we value greatly, and we do read all of it. So thank you. And with that, a reminder about next week, we're going to have a very special Tech Tuesday where we'll be giving you on November 15th a sneak peek at Sony's digital signage experience presence. We'll talk a little bit about our booth and share with you some maybe exciting products and solutions that we'll be showing there as well. With that, I want to, on behalf of everyone from Sony's Professional Display Solutions Company, new name, remind you, please vote. And thanks again for your time. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you next week.